I'm Emma Gascoigne and welcome to the B4 Business Podcast. Today's podcast is going to be a little bit different as we're joined by the man in charge. Richard Rosser is our guest today. Richard is the Managing Director of the In Oxford Group and he runs B4, Bio, Oxfordshire Voice and Nexus and much more. Welcome, Richard. Did I miss anything there?
Well, only that we're sort of in the middle of rebranding, so all of those aforementioned might be renamed shortly, but that's for another podcast maybe.
And how have you been over the past few months, Richard? It feels like you've been as busy as ever.
Yeah, I think we've been busier, to be honest with you. We sort of about turned pretty quickly once we realised that the future was going to be very different for us. And I have to say that, and I've said it a lot over the past few months, but the team have been superb in helping B4 change its direction. And it's been a really positive experience for all of us. And I appreciate, there's a lot of bad things happening around the world at the moment, a lot of challenges for everybody. But I think if the team hadn't performed as they have done, it would have been a much trickier 3 or 4 months for us.
It's now just been over a month since Business in Oxfordshire took place, the biggest business networking event in Oxford. So I thought it'd be good to have a little recap over a cup of tea or coffee. I've got coffee. Have you got anything, Richard?
No. I just had a bit of Ribena, so going.
So for people who don't know, what is Bio and why is it important for business?
Well, Bio, ironically, doesn't have anything to do with bio research or anything like that at all, bio industry. It stands for Business in Oxford. It was launched 7 years ago now. We were called to a meeting by the City Council and asked if we could put something together that could help the City Council connect with the local business community. And we launched Bio really out of fresh air, gut instinct, call it what you like. It was no real plan. As such, it was cobbled together and we put it on at the Surrey Business School the first year, had a number of lecture theatres and 10 exhibition stands. We soon outgrew the side after sort of the second year. We realised that the model going forward would have to depend really on exhibition revenue. So we went to a new venue, went to the King Centre, and we had 80 exhibition stands. We had about 60 odd speakers across the day. We stayed at the King Centre for 2 or 3 years and then moved to BMW Mini last year. In a similar setup, 60, 70 odd exhibition stands and I think it was about 80 odd speakers. And this year we had I had the mad idea of running it over 3 days. We felt there was a lot more content that we could showcase, exhibitors we could showcase, speakers we could showcase. I originally wanted to do 5 days, but it was quickly brought down a peg or two. So we were going to run it for 3 days at Jury's Inn. We hit on Jury's Inn. It was a good venue to go to. A lot of sort of the uncontrollable variables from previous years were controlled, which left us just to focus on populating the event. And it was until lockdown hit us, it was going in the right direction. We weren't really sure about ticket sales because ticket sales tend to happen month to 2 months beforehand. And as the event was scheduled for June, going into lockdown at the end of March, we were still pretty nervous about ticket sales, I'll be honest with you. We plotted the exhibition stands and we had a pretty well full speaker lineup, which is great. But the ticket sales was always going to be a concern, trying to get people not to come for 3 days, but just to get enough people on each of those 3 days. So when we went into lockdown, that sort of worry was taken away from us.
Yeah, I remember us talking back in March and, when Bio was potentially not going to happen because of COVID. And I remember being very upset about that. It must have been difficult for you to make it into a virtual event this year and to completely transfer that event into something very, very different.
Yeah, I'll be honest, we didn't immediately go into lockdown thinking we were going to deliver Bio as a virtual event. And I've always struggled with the concept of a webinar. I've always asked people what it is. And it took me about 20 years to understand the difference between a standing order and direct debit. So it was one of those sort of podcast webinar I didn't quite understand, but we knew we had to sort of cut our teeth in that particular area. So we launched into doing webinars on a daily basis, sometimes up to 4 a day, which was nothing compared to the 34 a day we would go on to do for Bio. but we were doing them regularly at 12 o'clock with B4 members, other guest speakers. So we got into the swing of doing webinars and quickly understood that we could deliver them fairly easily. We were using Zoom as the platform, and it worked well. And I think as I got more confidence and as the team displayed that they were more than capable of managing webinars, I put it to them that we should try and put bio on over 3 days as we planned, on the dates we planned, and set about finding the platform and getting the speakers that had previously agreed. And I think Lorna will correct me on this, but I think we got about 85% to 90% of the speakers that were originally booked for bio to speak at the virtual event. And then it was about finding a platform that could satisfy the exhibitors. And that was a devil's own job. I mean, you're never going to replicate the exhibitor experience on a laptop. It's just impossible. We hit on I looked at a number of other platforms. They were talking telephone numbers in terms of sort of real virtual conference rooms and almost gamification experiences, but we just couldn't even contemplate that. The hop-in platform was great. I mean, it really did help bring everybody together in quite a nice, warm community feel. But the exhibition option wasn't fantastic, and it was a little bit hit and miss for some of the exhibitors. But I don't think we can be sort of accused of not giving it a good crack.
I remember at one point actually in bio going into the exhibition space and I didn't really know what I was going to expect. And I remember coming face to face with someone and it initially felt quite awkward, but actually I quickly got used to it. So I was wondering how your exhibitors found
I think they were quite happy because when you're in an exhibition hall, you're stuck at a stand. You can't really do anything else. But I think all the exhibitors that I popped in to talk to said, it's fine. We can crack on with work. It's not too much of an inconvenience if someone pops in to say hello. Because the exhibitors had an option of sitting in and being on screen or having a video running. So those that decided to go for the on screen option literally were waiting for people to pop in and have a chat. And it's funny, we had a networking function as well, which is a bit like blind date. You for someone to pair with you and you go into the networking room and you'd have a timer giving you 90 seconds to have a conversation. And it's funny how all of our members want to meet people, but when you put them into this random, like you just referenced, this random position where you're meeting somebody cold that you don't know, it strikes the fear of God in most people. Yet that's what people join B4 for. So it's a bit of an anomaly, I suppose.
So do you think it's almost kind of getting over that initial fear and maybe it's kind of a new way of talking to people and maybe there's sort of a new etiquette around it potentially coming out of this situation?
Yeah, we've all been forced to learn a lot of things in a short space of time, do lots of things in a very short space of time. I always reference the examples talking to Jarl Seven at Managing Director at Owen Mumford and Ian Husbeth, leader at Oxfordshire County Council. I asked them the question, how long would have taken if you had been told that COVID was coming in 10 years' time, how long would you have taken to prepare for it? And both said, we would have procrastinated, we would have people saying, you can't do this, you can't do that. And it would have taken best part of a year, if not years, to trial and test everything. And we did it in a matter of weeks, if not days. We got everybody working remotely. So I think all of these new, as you say, etiquettes and learnings of platforms, we're being forced to learn them in a very quick period of time. And obviously there'll be refinements. Everybody will be looking to try to do it better. As lockdown continue, you start seeing people with nice banners with their names on at the bottom of the screen, or we did intro videos for our webinars rather than just appearing cold in a room. Unfortunately, we couldn't replicate that with bio because of the platform. But with the webinars on Zoom, you can create a little bit more of an experience, I suppose. And I'm sure things will improve as we go through the next few months, years, etc.
So bio was a 3-day event this year with a theme of changing the way you think. Can you talk us through why you decided on this theme and why you decided to make it longer?
Over the 3 days. Yeah, I mean, as I said before, I did consider 5 days, but we just felt that there was a lot of content that we could could justify running a longer event. And there's a lot of work goes into bio, and we do think as a team afterwards, Christ, that was done and dusted in a day. We could have put the same amount of effort in and maybe squeeze a couple of extra days out of it. So that was the thinking. Plus, we'd launched this new Nexus program where B4 members can partner up with charities and social enterprises. And a lot of the speaking slots and the exhibition stands were effectively gifted to social enterprises, charities, startup businesses, to have a foot in the door really in the B4 community. So that helped us to fill in the gaps really, where we might have, if we'd done it, we'd run bio on the same basis as previous years. We might have maybe comfortably filled 2 days, but I think having the Nexus program to help populate the slots helps us justify those 3 days. The theme, it became perfect almost, even though most people probably had changed the way they thought by the time of bio, really on the back of the growth in the business for purpose, the B Corps, and businesses looking at the way they operate, how important it is for businesses to source sustainable products, the whole diversity issue which has blown up over the past few months. And I think it's just a way for businesses to think, what do we actually need to do to stay relevant now with consumers, businesses needing to operate in a more responsible way, in a responsible manner. We felt it was an opportunity for us to use those. I always quote Blenheim as a perfect example of an organisation that is always looking ahead to be better at what it does in every single way that it operates. Dominic will be the last person to blow his own trumpet, but there's plenty of us that will blow it for him, where he's looking at sustainability, he's looking at diversity, who he's working with in a local community, trying to keep business local. And I think that all helps. He did a video interview before bio, and I think he spoke to you on a previous podcast, where he is very aware of the need for Blenheim to be relevant and to be doing everything in the best possible way it can to keep attracting its customers. Because as soon as it doesn't do that, everybody else will go to not next palace down the road. I suppose he's fortunate in that respect, but they will take their custom elsewhere. We're all becoming a lot more choosy about who we do business with. And I think lockdown has really, I remember speaking to one of our customers who said she's got a list on her fridge of companies she'll never work with again or never buy product from again because of how they've conducted themselves during lockdown. So I think it is, it's not going to go away, is it? This whole needing to be a better, more responsible business. And I think some of us need help in that. We don't necessarily know what to do in certain areas. So we need to learn from the examples set by others like Blenheim as to how we can improve ourselves and be better businesses.
It's certainly important to have those links with people. If you're a small business particularly, it's important to have that network of people that you can go to who can advise you in a way of doing things, especially when it comes to responsible business.
Definitely, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. And I think now more than ever, we're needing to trust who we work with, aren't we? And you hear about all sorts of scams going on now more than ever. And it's vital that you can rely on the people you're working with. We all like working with people that we like. And people are what business is all about. And if we can build those trusted relationships with people that can help guide us in the right ways of doing business, then that's all power to the smaller business community out there. And everybody else in those bigger businesses as well can learn, as we've seen from the mistakes that they've made during lockdown in becoming better businesses. And it's vital that they take note, because their custom revenue for a lot of businesses turned off like a tap turning off during lockdown, and that custom can stay away permanently if businesses don't shape up.
Do you think that the virtual concept was well received? Do you think it's opened more people up to virtual events?
I think, certainly, yeah. To answer your question first, it was well received. We had nearly 500 registrations. We had pretty solid attendance throughout the 3 days. I was looking back at some of the, we were putting together a prospectus and look back at some of the quotes, and I had some emails afterwards, people saying, I sat in on bio for 3 days, expecting just to log in for a couple of hours. I was hooked for the 3 days. people having it on in the background, almost like having the radio on in the background, dipping in and watching webinars where they wanted to fully engage and immerse themselves in the experience. But I think it provides that flexibility to a delegate, in inverted commas, where they're not having to invest their whole self into getting ready, driving, getting a bus, parking, buying food. They can do it from the comfort of their own home. And although I appreciate we're seeing a move back to the office, but I think there's going to be a vast amount of the population continuing to work from home, needing to have connection with a business community. And I think although elements of bio were a little bit rough and ready, I think we were given a little bit of leeway on that, and people were craving companionship in a way. They hadn't had that community experience for a couple of months almost. And I think bio really did serve a purpose for people as a friendly community that they could engage with again. Whether that same friendly companion mode will work in 6 months' time or not, I don't know. I think we'd need to up our game. It again needs to be more professional in every aspect. I'm talking to a lot of venues at the moment. A lot of them are not expecting to go back to live events, maybe as late as next March, Easter. So I think we've got to make the most of this platform and improve what we deliver, how we deliver it, and who we deliver it to. And the world is now our oyster. No limitations on travel. We can hook up with speakers from around the world, and I think that's the beauty of this world we now live in. We could learn from people from around the world before. Don't get me wrong, but I think accessibility to these people is easier now with the modes of connection that we now have.
I was going to ask, actually, it felt like there was a wider selection of talks from people, and I did notice that there were people from around the world joining, which was really exciting. So how did you manage to get something like that sorted?
Well, just through a number of connections that we've had. We've all got networks, haven't we, of people that know people, or we know them directly, and just asking a few favours here and there. And people, I think, are a lot more willing at the moment to support and help initiatives like this. And I think this one in particular stuck out for a lot of people because of the enormity of it. It was quite a big apple to take a bite out of, but I think we did it successfully. I think people bought into the vision, I suppose, of what we were delivering. Well, I've heard of a number. I joined a webinar platform the other day where they were talking about events that have been taking place, and one in the States ran 300 talks over 5 days, I think, but they were all pre-recorded. And I didn't want to go, well, didn't you have the guts to do it live? But we could all maybe do it pre-recorded. But the fact that we did it live as well, we were really flying by the seat of our pants, and it could have gone horribly wrong. But again, full credit to the team and to all the speakers. They went through the due diligence of understanding the platform the week before. Lorna sat through 80 odd one-to-ones with speakers. So we left very little to chance, and I think the response that we've got from everybody is, yeah, please do it again. And that's what we will be doing. We'll be sort of doing it on a more regular basis. Not 3 days, I hasten to add, Emma. Maybe not as ambitious in terms of the intensity of the speakers. 33 in a day, 34 in a day. We're doing about 14 in one day, but it's a great way to harvest a lot of content that people can watch on catch up, and doing podcasts like this in article format. And that's what we're going to be doing, is capturing all of that content for people to catch up on either live or at a later date. That
wide selection of speakers I've noticed through Bio, but also through B4 Live as well. You must have, Richard, a very big black book of content.
Well, I think I've straddled a few different sectors in my life. I started off in accountancy in London at Pricewaterhouse, and I've got a lot of mates that have gone on to do great things, and some really interesting businesses that they run. So that's one area. Mates from school that have gone on to do different things. Again, that's another area. I spent time as a football agent for about 6 years, so I've got contacts in the sporting world which I've drawn on. And that's one element of something that we've been in going forward. Is I'm fascinated by the blend of sport and business, and that's one area that although the team try to veer me off this particular path, it's a bit of an indulgence, but I think sport and business is an interesting area for a lot of people, and hopefully we'll have some decent sport related speakers coming up soon for B4 in our spotlight sessions.
And did you have any favourite talks of the event? or any memorable moments
It's
from
very unfair,
Bio?
Emma. Very unfair. I'll tell you what, the one I think that stands out for me, Salim, well, two actually. Salim Benadel from Storm Internet. Salim is, if you know Salim, he's full of energy, is the most upbeat, positive person you could wish to meet. Goes out for a 28-mile run every morning. I don't think it's that long, is it, Salim? But by the look of him, it's quite a long run. And then he goes into the gym, and he's very keen to get on the speaker circuit. And I spoke to Salim beforehand, and I said, Salim, this is a perfect opportunity for you to cut your teeth. And he wasn't too sure, and he needed a bit of coaxing, and he was trying to wait for that, maybe I don't know whether a better opportunity or maybe not so much of a larger audience. But I convinced him to do it, and he came on, and he had his microphone, he was stood up, he got his daughter to do some of his slides. It was a really engaging, positive presentation, and for a first one, it was brilliant. And I think that's what I'd like, our platforms to be going forward, is that safe environment in which people stretch themselves. They deliver something outside of their comfort zone, which helps them develop as a person, doing something that they're not 100% comfortable with, but they would really quite like to be able to master. So I think Salim was a great example of one that really stuck out for me and helped him develop. And we were introduced through Charlie Cox, who's a climate change expert locally, to a lady called Alice Schmidt in Austria. And Alice gave a talk on climate change and the effect that COVID is having on climate and everything else that we're doing, how it's polluting the atmosphere. And I think and then she spoke to us from Austria, and I think that sort of gave us a window onto what is achievable now, where we can make these contacts with some really great speakers going forward with B4. Alice then went on to grace the cover of our first B4 digital magazine. And we've now got that sort of international taste of what else we could do going forward. So it's all through connections. And if we can keep delivering good content, that can hopefully keep attracting more great speakers for the benefit of the B4 members.
I'd definitely recommend to anyone listening to this podcast to go and watch that. I was there actually on the day for that. And it was an excellent.
Alice's, yeah. And if you haven't seen Salim's, I recommend you watch that one. If you want a positive injection of energy into your day, Emma, watch Salim's talk. But no, they were all great. And he's talking about catch up. They're all gradually being made available on the B4 Live website. Rob's going through them painstakingly, editing them. They are a good watch, and he's done a great job on that. So well done, Rob.
Yeah, you had an amazing selection of speakers, so everyone should watch all of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So what's the kind of plan, do you think, at this stage for Bio 2021? I've got a stack of business cards that I need to use up. Do you think I need to recycle these, or do you think we're going to see events happening face to face again?
I don't know. I mean, I think it would be we did actually rearrange a date in November, but I think we soon realised that was going to be ambitious at best. So I think until we know anything for certain, and I don't think we ever will we, Emma? I don't think, even if we're told we can have events in April, that event could soon get sort of pulled away from us. So I think until we know something relatively certain, we can't be putting dates in diaries. What we can continue to do is deliver a lot of virtual content, as we will do. We've just gone through a month of planning, talking to the members about what they want and how we can best deliver what they want through B4 and through these sort of platforms. And we're experimenting with different platforms about connections, random connections, opportunities to connect with the likes of Blenheim and Unipart and Bus Company and the City and County Council in terms of becoming suppliers, learning what these companies want from their suppliers, and to how you can maybe shape your business into being more of a attractive supplier to these organizations, because it's all about learning and becoming better businesses, and that in turn makes us maybe more attractive to some of these larger organizations. So a lot more digital content, speakers from around the world, webinars, learning webinars on a regular basis. You referenced Oxfordshire Voice, which we're changing to B4 Voice. So monthly we'll have an issue that we'll focus on with local government. Everybody can log into that. So anybody in business or the local community can come in and share with the positive collaborative discussions about particular issues. I mean, before lockdown, we were focusing on transport, but that seems to have been solved in lockdown with less cars on the road. But obviously there are issues regarding transport that we can still discuss. We referenced the sport and business angle, which we're looking forward to developing, and the website is currently under review, and we're hopefully launching a new website later this year. So, a couple of other things I'd quickly like to mention: we're launching a student membership, and so it'll be free for any student to access B4 content live or the catch-up content. I think it's vitally important that students are given opportunities, some hope as to what they can do with their careers, and they'll be invited to the B4 Connect sessions where local businesses will promote themselves, tell the students what they do, how they can get in to work for them, why they're great employers to work for. So I think that's a vitally important area. And I think the other area that we really got to push on is engaging the staff, the B4 members. There's about 25,000 staff represented by B4 members, and we're probably talking to about 1,000 of them. So there's a huge amount of staff there that can benefit from the webinars, the learning webinars, the B4 Lives going forward, and all the other content. And with a lot of them spending a lot of time at home, able to indulge in a little bit of training, learning material, with those extra hours on their hands, I think it would be a great way for businesses to engage with B4, where they can now get free access for all of their staff as well.
That all sounds very exciting. There may be uncertainty at the moment with what's going on, but there is a certainty that B4 will keep everyone connected and happy. So there is some positivity.
Well, we try. Yeah, we try. We're always looking to improve how we do things. And I genuinely believe that although we've had, key pillars of B4, i.e. the magazine and face-to-face events, sort of taken away from us because of the lockdown and the world we now live in, we've been working hard on what we're going to deliver going forward. And I genuinely believe, well, we all genuinely believe that it's going to be a much more effective, vastly improved B4 that you connect with as a business and as a member of staff, or, as I said, as a student. And we've still got the Nexus program, opportunities for social enterprise, charities and startup businesses. So that's still there as well. So really, access for everyone really is what we're talking about for B4. Even as a non-member, you can log into a lot of the content. So it's open to everybody. We do need some members, obviously.
Thank you very much for your time, Richard. That's it for the podcast today.
This podcast is brought to you by B4. B4 is a growing community of businesses which helps its members build valuable long-term relationships. Visit b4-business.com for more information.